Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Rewinds Rewind. We're here. There's so few people left.
Queer.
But
I was waiting for the queer. I'm
yeah,
like,
we are queer. We're not going anywhere. Um, uh, yeah,
Jinx
that's
isn't
the
here, so
vibe.
we're good.
That's the vibe, absolutely. Um, uh, Episode 10. We're in the double dig. Can you believe it? Um, uh,
I can't believe you just said double dig is what I
Double
can't
dig.
believe.
Believe it.
So
Yeah, we're,
Insane.
we're at the final five. It's crazy.
yeah.
We're Yeah, let's get right into it. As always, I'm Jackson. We are joined by an extra special guest who knows quite a bit about how poorly things can go at the final five. It is Bray, everybody, aka
Hi guys.
Donnie.
Hello. Yeah, I know a thing or two about everything that can go wrong will go wrong at Final
Yeah,
Five. So
yeah. You
I'm
sounds
your
like you
expert.
were you were about the blueprint for Davon, so your legacy lives on, I suppose.
Awesome. Amazing.
Of course, of course. Who else has joined us here on our lovely little pod episode?
Women,
Yeah.
literally just women. Well, it's me, woman number one, Sydney. Happy to be here. I'm alive. I'm thriving. Well, thriving. I'm alive. Period. Women live. Everyone's not.
I don't know how, but like,
You
Let
don't know how
women
to
live.
snap?
no.
No, he
Literally.
doesn't know how to let women live.
Fuck.
The sometimes living is all that we can really do.
It's true.
Mhm.
I am Alex. I am the second woman on the team. I'm glad that we have been upgraded from feminoid or whatever the hell to women.
Femoid. Femoid.
Femoid, thank you. So
Femoid.
that's an exciting development.
We're really moving up in the world,
We
absolutely.
really are.
We
Yeah.
are. We are.
But yeah, we're here. Some more people might pepper in and join every now and then. Who's to say? We're keeping an
We
open
never know.
podcast.
Spontaneous.
Yeah, absolutely. We're got to keep us on our toes. But yeah, we're here at the final five. At the end of last episode, we had not only Jace get the boot, but Meg also followed him right out the door. The Glorbs blew up, and when they did, they blew up hard. And had Liz and Jace and Meg, and as we'll see with this episode, Davon as well go out all back to back to back. So they glorbed too close to the sun, it seems. And
Uh,
we're here to talk about it. Yeah. Yeah. Vigo. The house guests start their new HOH competition. Jackie, having swept the double that sent Meg home, is of course outgoing. So we go into the final five, and it is Rogers and Hammerstein themed. That's so exciting. We love a Golden Age musical, and basically you could like throw a dart at a wall of Golden Age musicals, and it'll probably hit one that Rodgers and Hammerstein wrote. Some really iconic ones. Their rendition of Cinderella is beautiful. There's
Yeah, they
um
did more than I realized. Like how I was dragging you guys in host chat over Cinderella, and you were like, "No, you dumbass. This is their play."
It's true. It's true. They've done a lot of really great stuff. The HOH competition for this cycle is based on a State Fair, which is a Rodgers and Hammerstein musical. And on the real show, it was the like egg chicken wire competition where they have to like move the eggs through the wire and then put it in like a spot or whatever. It's kind of an endurance competition. But Graham took that and used kind of the phrase "count your chickens before you hatch" and all of that. So we basically just turned it into stay or fold, um, which is an iconic Big Brother competition that I don't believe was actually featured on this season, for whatever reason. But we featured it here. So why not? I will say we did tweak it a little bit from what we've done it in the past. Usually it's just like everyone, you see the image, everyone bets on how much they think is in the image. Everyone reveals their scores and people stay or fold and you get eliminated or earn a ticket, whatever. I was inspired based on the air rifle shooting in the Olympics this year. And they did a scoring system where they would do just like 10 normal rounds, and then starting on like the 12th round, someone would get eliminated. So it's like it gives you a little bit of time to maybe get your feet and realize what's going on. So we had them do I believe it was 5 rounds, just counting per normal to chalk up some score, and then starting in the 6th round it was single elimination just based on whoever was the furthest off with their total for the counting. Um, and there was also a very important caveat in this competition, that quite literally determined the outcome of the entire thing, that they had 45 seconds to count from when they get the image. They have 45 seconds. They have to throw a number out there, and then lock in their time. And if at any point you go over those 45 seconds, it doesn't matter where you are, if it's in the first like non-elimination rounds or otherwise, if you go over time, you're eliminated. Um, and who'd have thunk that in a competition so heavily revolving around disqualifications, that Audrey, of all people, would seize the day and be the only one to manage to not go over 45 seconds on any of the like 9 rounds or whatever. Like, I think that's poetic, really. It's really come full circle, and I say by default because it absolutely was by default, but Audrey earned it. She turned it out. She, I think she had used up all of her DNF and DQ karma this season, and it finally worked out in her favor. And I finally, after fucking weeks, finally got that 14 out of 16, 15 out of 17, if you want to count both twins, of everyone except the first two boots, with Clay and Steve winning at least a competition for the whole season, which is just a crazy stat, I think, in itself.
That's really fun. That's a fun stat.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
I know, yeah. Audrey was that last one we were waiting on from like, I think it was like the final, I guess it was like the final 8 or something like that on. Something like that when um well, actually I don't remember. I think it was, oh, because it was James and Jace and Audrey, I think, were the last people that hadn't won stuff. And then Jace won the double, and then James also won in the double. So yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, from around the final 9, final 8 is when we were waiting on Audrey to finally win a comp. And she got very close quite a few times, but always managed to DQ or DNF or get second somehow. So thank God she finally pulled it out. And Audrey is our final 5 HOH. The heavens sing. And
Yay.
we
I think
finally,
Jackson was going to commit a hate crime if she didn't win something before getting
absolutely,
eliminated.
I
Like,
absolutely was. Um, uh, yeah, without a doubt. I was on the edge of my seat for multiple cycles, and I just was always so close. It never happened. But yes. Um, uh, Over this time, Jackie has also decided that she wants to cut James at Final Three, and I believe her plan was wanting to take Audrey at this point to Final Two. But it was between Audrey and Jason because Davon's too big of a threat, and she thinks James is too likable. So taking one of Audrey or Jason to the end seems to be what Jackie wants to do right now. And now that Audrey officially has head of household, she makes the Tres Leches alliance with James and Jason, to try and push out the two remaining power players, really, in Jackie and Davon. Obviously, not knowing how close James and Jackie are, because no one really knows that until after they get evicted, anyways. They've been like the
and then they're
secret.
greeted with novels.
Yeah, yeah, and then they're greeted with like memoirs about how James like isn't actually stupid, and his real secret duo is with Jackie, and he knew about the last laugh and all the copy pastes that the jurors complain about now. Um, uh, yeah, Audrey is she, I mean, realistically there's not a lot that she can do, I guess. I mean, she did just make a 3-person alliance with at the final 5, so pretty clearly but she's gonna nominate Jackie and Day, and she's also like quite literally since like day 3 or something. I remember her going and being like, I'm gonna win HOH cycle 2, and I'm gonna make a big move, and I'm gonna put up Meg and Day. And I'm gonna get Davon out because she's such a power player. And Jace being like, "What the fuck are you talking about? It's day 3 of it." And so Audrey finally has the chance to nominate Davon. Davon has yet to be nominated this entire season. It's the final 5. It was between Day and Audrey to be the last 2 nominated, and Audrey has since been nominated twice in that. So I think her bill is finally due, and she's finally getting her chance to put up Davon and get her out. And I do think that Davon is Audrey's target for sure. She's played such a good game, and just the never having been nominated to this point in itself. And Jackie also just has better connections with both James and Audrey, um, and and Jason, honestly, at this point, kind of like everybody. Um, uh, Day is close with James. But I think her threat level kind of outweighs whatever loyalty James would have to that. And then Jason just has no loyalty to her whatsoever. So if it's coming down to those two, it's pretty clear that Davon would be going home. Jackie does want to maybe try and get Jason out here somehow, just because he is such a comp presence, and like at any given moment he could go on to like beast out a comp and just win his way to the end, especially given how close we are to the end at this point. Like he's really just a couple competitions away from being in final 2. Um, but she can recognize that she's about to be on the block and probably needs to worry about herself first and foremost. So if she can't work her magic and get Jason out and still keep Dave on at this point, I don't think she's gonna lose sleep over it. Um, and meanwhile, James is beginning to feel like he has really bad jury management. Which,
Correctly. So
yeah, good for him for
good
for
read. Good
recognizing
read.
that. I will say it's so weird because it started out so well.
It
But
did.
like Shelly and Jeff, and Becky. I would even say like Liz.
This is this is what happened. This I can pinpoint what
Please
happened.
do.
Yeah,
Please tell
please
me what
do.
happened.
Let me analyze. Let me psychoanalyze for a second. Like he
Excited.
those early boots, pre-jury and like the very very first jury boots. Like he was a lot of those votes. Like he genuinely, even if he says he has something to do with it, like they kind of were out of his hands. And no one attributed any blame to him. And like it wasn't ever like this is James's, like this is down to James. So he was really good at being like when he was out of the picture, being like, I miss you. Like this sucks. I'm so sorry you have to go here. Like I really wanted to work with you. And it came across as genuine because James did want to work with most of those people and like they did have a relationship, like Shelly being an example of that.
Yeah.
But the minute that James started having moves attributed to his game, like it was like, James, like your vote will save me or kill me. Or like, James, like you're going to put me up or like you're going to veto me or whatever. And then, so when James started having things be attributed to him, like, I'm going to leave because of you. And then he did that thing where he's like, I'm going to spend all 24 hours pretending like I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
He's done this every
Multiple
single
times.
week.
Yeah.
Every single time James either has power in the form of like he's HOH, if he's the POV winner, or if he's like the deciding vote. Every time he's been in that situation in jury phase, he does the same exact thing, like a formula. He spends the entire 24 hours pretending like he doesn't know what he's going to do,
Yep.
telling everyone he's sorry he's upset them and that he doesn't want to hurt anybody when he knows full well within the first probably 15 minutes of whatever happens that he knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then he refuses to talk about it with the person that he's
Mhm.
going to evict or the person he's going to put up or the person he's going to not veto. And then it comes down to the deadline. And all day he's been leading them on, like literally like acting like he's going to protect them and they're all good. And then 10 minutes before the deadline, he's like, actually, I'm evicting you. I'm so sorry. This is so hard for me. Like Audrey absolutely went ballistic on him when he said he was gonna put her up as the replacement nom because they spent 24 hours talking where he acted like he wasn't going to put her up as the replacement nom, and then suddenly, so it's like, and people aren't going to respect your game or feel respected when you try to pull wool over their eyes for literally no reason. Like, of course, like, I mean, people get mad if you lie either which way, but people are going to have, I think, a little bit more respect and a little bit more grace leaving when they feel like, well, you did lie to me, but I understand why you lied to me like that. Like, or you lied to me in a manner at which, like, you only lied the absolutely necessary amount, and then everything else you were really respectful and like tried to help me. Whereas James, even though I don't think it's his intention at all, he's literally just like shitting all over these people because he gives them hope and then strings them along for however many fucking days.
Yeah.
And then at the very last minute, so they don't even have a chance to like defend themselves or a chance to like actually try to convince him because he's clearly already made up his mind and his mind's been made up. He just blindsides them. And then they're like, what the fuck? Like, I thought we were like working together. And then he's like, oh, I don't know. It's so hard being sad like this. And then they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then he fucks them over. And then he's like, I'm going to write you a 5,000 word goodbye message and that's going to fix everything. But by that time, like, they're so pissed. Like, a goodbye message, especially one that's like half copy and pasted, is not going to fix it. Like, it's one thing to be like it's one thing to burn someone, but again, like, you leave that room of like, I'm burning you, I will explain everything, I'm so sorry, and like, you only burn them as much as you absolutely have to. He
Yeah.
burns them third degree burns for no fucking reason. Like, there's literally no reason why he does that shit. So he didn't do that in the beginning. In the beginning, he just did the long goodbye message, and that was it, and that was fine. But the minute that he started having any kind of like real visible autonomy, it all went wrong, and he's just never figured it out. He literally just did the same thing this last cycle again. Like, he can't
Yeah.
help it. It's just
Yeah.
like it's his.
I feel like this is kind of a situation where it's like almost a twofold issue. I think the major thing is, I don't know, I think there's like a big difference in how you play like Survivor versus Big Brother. And
Mhm.
James has talked before about how he's
Yes.
come from like Survivor games and everything. And I think with
Mm-hmm.
Survivor, like, it's a lot more acceptable to string people along, to lie until the last minute, to have basically like
Yep.
power hour where you decide to vote in the last hour. And like
Yeah. That's true.
Big
That's a good
Brother,
point.
which is the
Yeah,
thing
it's
that
so
I
true.
No,
actually
it's
love.
it's definitely true.
And the thing I love about Big Brother is the fact that it's so much more like blunt, and people really respect you just like basically telling them to their face, like, look, you're a threat to my game. I can explain it more later, but I need for my game for you to leave and that kind of shit. Like,
Yeah.
I feel as if there's not a strategic reason for you to lie to someone, like if as Sydney was saying, like if you can't explain why you lied to someone, like that's actually normally part of my goodbye message. It's like, I'm sorry I lied to you about this. This is why. And like then they can kind of see why you took the actions you did. Like, 'cause I've actually had cases where like I blindsided my nomination. Like I lied to my nominees about like going on the block and they found out in ceremonies. And like I still got their vote at the end.
Yeah.
Like it can
Absolutely.
happen. And then the other thing, that's like I think the major issue. And then I think the other like little one is that I feel like sometimes when you defy people's expectations, they get a little bit like angry at you
Bitter.
sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah.
bitter and angry at you for like being made a fool of.
Yeah.
Oh, for
And
sure.
Nobody wants to
I,
feel like the fool.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think
No.
that like just the way there's just something about the tone of the goodbye messages that comes off a little bit like, ha ha ha, I am very smart. Here's how smart I am. And I don't think James intends
I'm a
that to be the tone,
mastermind. Yeah.
but I feel like the combination of like how he acts in
Mhm.
game, telling people like, oh no, I'm so sorry, I'm so confused, I don't know what's going on, and then like, really, I'm so smart, blah blah blah. It just, I think it kind of just is a recipe for a bitter jury.
I
Yeah. And
think like
Absolutely.
you go ahead, Bray.
I was gonna say like I think it does really boil down to like perception. Like you need to be in tune with how you're perceived in the game. And now like I'm gonna say a couple times like I don't really know what's going on in the season because I haven't really been spectating.
You're so
But
We
real.
love
um
honesty. We love
Yes,
honesty.
Listen, it's been like 50 days at this point. I
but
don't blame
it
It's
you.
really
been
has.
too fucking long. Yeah.
yeah, I just got a new job and stuff like I'm busy, like I'm running around. Um
Oh, he's
but
employed.
Ooh.
it's just what I'm trying to say is like perception versus reality is like a huge thing. Like you can't walk around this game like thinking, oh, like you can't act like the fool and like be like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know, guys. Sorry. And then act like big dog on campus and be
Yeah.
like, I know everything. I'm the mastermind in goodbye messages. Like something's not going to add up. And when you're on the jury, like speaking from experience, when you're on the jury, you want to feel heard and you want to feel understood and you want to feel like the person who's giving you the goodbye message understands their own perception.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
from what I'm gathering, it sounds like maybe that's the problem with James. He doesn't fully understand how people are seeing him.
Yeah, I think I was gonna bring up very similar things because it was one of Meg or Jace, which makes sense because they're kind of the most bitter about this whole situation. But one of them said, "Okay, if you've been playing this character, like quote unquote, for the entire game, are you really playing a character at this point?" Like, um, and I do think it is, and James very clearly, even like preseason and early days of the season, did outline that he wanted to be viewed as this person that didn't have a lot of game knowledge, like maybe is like kind of like new to orgs, maybe isn't 100% sure what's going on, in order to kind of have people like let their guards down and bring him in and be like,
Mhm.
well, James doesn't really know what's going on, so like maybe I can help him and we can make it work. And I think I think that works for a certain amount of time, and it very much did work for James for a certain amount of time. But it's kind of I think it's past the point where it is no
Yeah,
longer working. I
It's reached
think
the expiration date.
yeah,
it
exactly.
has.
And I think it
And
expired about 15 days ago.
And the thing is, like, the only person in this game who has a very clear idea of who James really is and the games James has really played is Jackie.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why, if James wants to win, if James makes it to final two or like has the deciding vote, I really think it's in his best interest to evict Jackie because she's the only one who can be like, no, James did that on purpose since day one. And I know that because he and I have been in cahoots since literally day one.
Yeah.
And he is always so
Makes
like
her
if
the
he
cheerleader.
yeah, like if he could have just been more transparent with like one other person and have that person be like in jury all because this jury is very bitter already. They are a very, very bitter, very unhappy jury. So it's like if he could just have someone in there right now saying, I know you guys feel burned by James, but I've been working with him since like day five. And ever since day five, that's been a strategy for him. And just none of you clocked it. And
Yeah.
he was very good at it. And the reason that you guys all think he's so stupid is because he's been making you think that, but he's never been that way. But he did it to everyone in jury, and not one person there is like, well, actually, he really wasn't like that because the only person who he let his guard down with is Jackie, who's still in the house,
Yeah.
who's also trying to win the game. So,
So it really just seems like it's almost like revisionist history at this point. It's like
yes,
because no one genuinely has. I think maybe Jason kind of at this point would get a little bit of that
who's
too.
also the only one still, he also still in the game.
Yeah, but he's also still in the game. Yeah, and so all of these people have gotten the same spiel from James as they've spent these 30, 40, however the fuck many days with him, being so incredibly frustrated with him at multiple points in the game, let alone the last experience that they had with him, which is always going to be like the freshest thing in their mind. And suddenly they get bombarded with this long ass goodbye message talking about like, hey, what you thought of me the entire game was completely wrong. And I'm actually a fucking genius. And like I've been playing so well. And you can say things like that without saying that in your goodbye
Yes.
Yeah,
message.
you
Yeah.
can.
Um,
Show, don't tell.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's doing a lot of telling instead of showing, and people just don't believe it at this point, honestly.
Another
No,
thing that I've noticed he's done, and I know has been vocalized by various members of the jury as things that they've been unhappy with. I know Day especially has brought this up, is as like part of James kind of like ingratiating himself with people or making them feel like he's in their back pocket or whatever. Like he would go to them and be like kind of leaning on them for emotional support. Like, oh
Yeah,
my God, I'm so stressed about this vote. I don't know what to do. What should I do? Like he would ask for advice as
yeah,
part of like the strategy. But then part of it is almost like I don't think this was his intention, but he did kind of end up making some people almost like his little org therapist.
Yeah.
And then like when he then data dumps in his goodbye message about how he knew everything and like he was in all this control, it's like, well then what the fuck?
Yeah, it's a
Like
little
why are
off-putting.
you yeah, like why are you like then demanding all this emotional labor from me
Yeah,
if
exactly.
you're really the one in control?
I think
Like I
yeah.
think it really just left a really bad like I think they had used the word like term emotional manipulation, which I don't think it's quite that,
No.
Mhm.
but I do
I don't
see
think it's that.
yeah, it's not that, but I do see like where her bad taste is coming from.
Yeah, where the
Yeah.
line can be kind of blurry about like, well,
Hmm.
why did you do all of that? And
Hmm.
just to like be like, I knew I had to evict you the whole time because you're such a threat to my game and blah blah blah. It's like this
Hmm.
disconnect between James the character, James the player, James the strategy, James the aloof or whatever. It's just too big. It's
Yeah.
too big of a disconnect
Yeah.
to cross like in a
It's like
goodbye message.
one's here, one's way up here.
Yeah.
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 They don't
It's
meet.
Yeah.
it's like a much more season long version of when Jen made Ian do the puzzle and he did it and then she evicted him. You know what I mean? It's like when you tell
Rent
someone
free constantly.
if you do this, I will then do this. And then they do that exact thing and then you're like, never mind. And there's no real it seems like there's no rhyme or reason for it. With Jen, there wasn't. Like Jen's just insane.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, with James, there was a rhyme or reason for the most part for the reason he did things, but he didn't ever explain that in the game. And yeah, it's like it does seem like revisionist history when you're just trying to say like, well, actually, I was the mastermind this
Yeah.
entire time, and I blah blah. Blah. So it's like, yeah.
And maybe
Anyway,
even so like with him being so because people know that him and Jack, at least people in the jury know that him and Jackie have been together basically the whole
yes,
time.
yeah,
Mhm.
And so maybe they're like picking up like, okay, well, James and Jackie have played very similar games, but like I don't feel super pissed off at Jackie right now. Like,
yeah,
why is that? And stuff like that. So maybe it's like, okay, they've been doing all of this the same and been in lockstep for so long, whether it's secretly or not. But Jackie's been like more upfront and um uh,
hmm,
more maybe like more not strategic, but I guess more like outwardly strategic about it and um uh, has had those relationships with a lot of these jurors and stuff too, but has still kind of given them the respect of like being straight up with them in certain moments and even like specifically with James, whether it is intentional or not, I'm sure it is on Jackie's part, at least a little bit. A lot of times in these votes or in these key decisions that James has the responsibility for making, when he's spending those 20 so hours or whatever, feigning like, oh, I don't know what to do, I just need to really think about it. Jackie's been in those people's DMs being like, oh yeah, James is gonna do this. Like he already told me. So
Yeah, she's definitely like, because I know actually my first game, my first Big Brother game, my ride or die, like I was having basically a breakdown over like making a hard decision and, kind of like what James was doing. But
yeah,
instead of what Jackie is doing with James, it's just like, oh my God, it's so hard. I know. My ride or die was like, suck it the fuck up. It's a game. Just tell them, rip off the band-aid. You will get more respect that way. And
yeah,
like, that's what I needed to hear. I did
absolutely.
it. It was fine. And like, that's what you need to do. So it's very clear that Jackie is like, and there's nothing wrong with her doing this,
No.
just kind of like letting James get all this dirt on his hands and
Yeah.
everything. But like,
It's probably
would
the
be
smart thing
helping
to
him if she
do.
wanted to. Oh, yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah. And I mean, Jackie's even straight up said, like, I love James so much, and I'm so happy that we've played this entire game together, and I love him dearly. And she's like, but I realize what he's doing is really bad for his game right now, and I'm gonna not touch on that.
yes,
Yeah, she's
I
like,
mean,
yeah, and
that's the
she's
smartest
right.
thing to do. Yeah.
yeah,
If you're
Absolutely.
close to the person with bad jury management, drag them to the end. You easily win.
Absolutely.
love you,
Um,
Sombra.
yeah, period. But yes, I think we've spent enough time talking about James's bad jury
Yeah,
management.
yeah.
Why it's happened. Audrey does eventually go and indeed nominate Jackie and Davon for eviction. They Jackie does try to do maybe something, maybe some way, shape, or form get like James up because because James made Audrey the replacement nominee on his HOH. Maybe get Jason up because like Jason's been nominated so many times already. Who really cares if he gets nominated again? She definitely puts forth an effort, but it doesn't really stick. And then Davon straight up is just like, I know I'm going on the blog. Like there's nothing I can do to convince Audrey to not nominate me. So I'm just gonna roll with it. Um, uh, and that's exactly what she does. Audrey nominates Davon and Jackie for eviction, and we go into the final five Power of Veto competition. This competition is based off of the song is Many a New Day. I don't fully remember what musical that is from. I think it might be, let me Google it real quick. Many a New Day from, oh, it's from Oklahoma. Fucking duh. Okay, yeah. So it's based on Many a New Day, but they titled it Many a Past Day because everyone loves a days competition. And we're getting into the end game now, so we actually have to have competitions that require notes because that's just kind of how Big Brother goes. And this is really kind of like the first competition of the season that requires notes. All the other ones, I mean, we did like face morph, which I guess maybe sort of kind of would be
No,
notes. I
that's
don't
not
know.
notes.
That would be like the closest one probably. So really, like, yeah, this is the final five first notes competition, and people are actively like, oh well, I don't have any notes, so. eh.
I mean, I don't know about you guys. I never take notes unless I get that far because I'm like, I don't want
Yeah,
to waste my time taking notes if I get
no,
evicted in like
absolutely.
week 3 and it's a
I
Yeah.
waste of my
normally start
time.
around jury, I think. That's when
I
I start
used
to
I
feel like,
used to be that
okay,
person that kept up my notes like as from the beginning of the season all the way through. Yeah, and I've gotten eliminated or evicted a few too many times without ever having to use my notes for me to get that in depth with it. So yeah, kind of
Yeah.
if I'm
I
getting towards the end game, I'll start doing it. But
I will make my notes at final HOH if I have to.
you
oh
know,
God.
I will stay up the night before and I will make my notes and then I
yeah,
will win final HOH.
cram sessions they work. They
Everything's fresh.
have it all
Yeah,
fresh in
everything's
your
fresh in
mind.
your
Yeah,
mind.
exactly. Yeah, so basically this competition is very straightforward. It's basically you just get a prompt based on some kind of event. So like when Jackie won her first HOH or whatever. It's just like that, just with however many questions. But instead of just you typing like day two and sending it and it being correct, you have to actually answer with like your stopwatch. And Lord help these fucking people with their stopwatches this season. I'm surprised they did as well as they did. Um, uh, so basically, if there was something that happened on day 10, you would say start to start your time, count 10 seconds, and then say stop. And you just have to be accurate with it. And then that would make your answer day 10 for that. So, and it's as simple as whoever has the lowest golf score by the end. That means you were the most accurate with both your timer and with your days and your notes would win the competition. Um, James was having a very stressful time as this was going. And I don't even was it just one of the I think I don't even remember he disqualified himself somehow.
Oh,
Um
it's because he wasn't doing start. He thought that like he could just
oh
do the command and then press stop. Like he thought
yeah.
the command was the start.
That
So then I
sucks.
think he got
Oh,
like three-fourths the way through and we're like, bro, you're like DQ'd a couple
This is
rounds
like
ago.
it's like when Audrey was doing touchy subjects and she
Oh
just
my
did
God.
all of the prompts and
how
we
do
were
you
like,
DQ
"Girl,
from
what
touchy
are you doing?"
subjects?
Yeah. Well, because so we got to the point where we had to do the gifts
Audrey's very
and you
talented.
like individual
Right.
answer for like send a gif. Here's what I think the answer is. Okay, next gif. Here's the answer. Audrey just sent all of the gifs. And then we were like, girl, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, I was typing up my list. And we were like,
Oh,
no.
Me and host chat like, wait, is she gonna send any answers? What is she
Yeah,
doing?
yeah.
Isn't this a DQ?
But yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah, it
th
is.
this cast in DQ is groundbreaking, truly. I'll stop. And for day, it's do or die. So fitting that it's the day Davon competition. Uh, that was funnier in my head, but it's okay.
Ah,
So, thank you,
haha.
thank you. So they go in. James disqualifies himself as we said. I was honestly shocked it was only one person, if I'm being so for real.
Yeah.
They're
And
all growing. I'm proud
I
of
think,
them.
yeah, it's true. I think we were all kind of largely expecting one of the nominees to probably win between Davon and Jackie. And they're also the first two to go. And Davon gets like 10 points, which is not great.
She
And
flopped. They both flopped.
yeah, and then Jackie goes, and we're like, okay, well, surely Jackie does better than 10 points. And Jackie gets 12 points. And we're
Yeah.
like, oh my God. But honestly, for Jackie, the worst case scenario would have been Davon winning veto. And then
Yeah.
Audrey puts up either James or Jason. Honestly, not sure which one. Um, uh,
I think at
Probably
that point,
James.
literally everyone but Day wanted anyone but Devon to win that
Yeah.
veto.
Yeah.
Because
And
Jackie had been doing work on Jason at that point.
yeah.
So
And so as shitty and scary as it is to like have the nominations stay the same and to be a final nominee, it was far and away not the worst thing that could have happened to Jackie. So it was looking a little scary here at this point when Davon had a little bit of a lead. And we were like, maybe this is harder than what we thought it was going to be. But then Jason came in and got like 2 points. So we were
on
like,
mobile,
oh,
by the way,
cool.
on mobile.
Mm.
That's
I
crazy.
wonder, maybe would this be easier on mobile? Maybe like the sending of like the
It might
stop
be
and
easy.
start.
Yeah, might be
Maybe,
easier to send if you have like, say you have like the clock pulled up on your computer so you can watch the seconds go by.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
That might
Okay.
work.
Yeah. And then Audrey comes in too. She's in her comp beast moment, I guess. And she gets 3 points. So like she almost wins this as well. So like good for her.
Queen.
But yes, obviously if there's only 5 people left at this point, so if you've been paying attention, that does of course mean that Jason wins the power of veto competition.
King.
Um, Surprisingly, up until this point, his first veto win of the season. Yeah. He's won so many
One of
fucking
the things
competitions.
he's like pointed out actually a little bit recently is that like he's got this moniker of comp beast, but like if you take away the battle of the blocks, he hasn't won that much shit.
That's true.
You
It
know?
it would just be two HOHs at that point.
Yeah,
So
like which isn't
he's like
nothing, but
Yeah.
he's like Caleb from BB16.
Absolutely.
oh,
Yes.
we've definitely called him that. I
We
think we
have
called him what did he call himself? It was Beast
Beast
Mode
Mode
Twink Boy or
Twink.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I titled one of the episodes on this Beast Mode Twink Boy. Yeah. But I mean, we said this like 5 episodes ago, but Jason is far and away better than Caleb ever was on this.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
Well, first of
Also,
all,
can
he's
I
in
just say,
alliances, as we've mentioned. So
yep, already won that one. And can I just say there is a viable path where we will have another person who was evicted and came back in a BBR season have an actual run at Final Two. I feel like that's pretty impressive to have
absolutely.
potentially happened twice. It was already
Who's
impressive
the
when Dom did it.
who's the
Dom,
returnee?
Jason.
Jason in this
Jason.
Jason.
season.
Oh, okay.
Jason got taken
Yeah.
out in the first double.
but also
Oh,
Jason came into this game wanting to make it to the battle back phase so that he could win and come back. Like he kind of knew that
Yep.
his
Oh
social
yeah.
game, he's self-aware enough to know that his social game doesn't stack up to a lot of other org players just because of like time and everything. So
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
he knew that he probably would have to rely on some comps and everything. And just, I feel like I give a lot more respect to a battle back winner when it's part of their original strategy.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
you know,
And it was a great, I mean, it's a strategy that has worked very
mhm.
well for him. But
Absolutely.
it really is impressive the fact that I was impressed when Dom did it because there's just such an inherent, I do feel like there's like that stigma of like you've been evicted, people don't take you seriously, you seem expendable when you come back from the battle back. Like people might want to work with you, but it's usually like in the short term
Yeah.
as like a tool rather than like a real ally. So the fact that like someone like Dom was able to come back and make it to final two, and the fact that Jason has a very viable path to final two at this point, like it's
Absolutely.
impressive. Like we love
Yeah.
it.
And they both had a pretty similar narrative of like pre-battle back being kind of like
Hmm.
low-key flops, you know? But
Yeah.
then like post-battle back, there's already this war brewing, and then
Yep.
everyone is just kind of like, hey, can I get you like on my side? Because, suddenly you start needing some numbers to like make some shit happen.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they
Jason,
both did a really good job of just seizing on that.
I think especially with Jason coming in hot and immediately winning HOH as he
Mhm.
came back into the game as well. I think that could have been very bad for him, and it could have like further cemented like the oh Jason's a comp beast, and we just have to get him out. But he really did use that HOH kind of like the most that he possibly could. And we were questioning if it would truly like break up the Glorbs or not, but like we've seen like four of them go home in a row now, of all of them. So clearly it did. Um,
One thing
and
I do want to also highlight about his HOH, like not to take anything away from him, because he did
yeah,
an amazing job with it, is that James had a very heavy hand in that HOH.
oh,
And I think
absolutely.
like and and Jason has talked about how James is his ride or die in this kind of section of the game. And I think that that little like side duo they had has been very beneficial for Jason, especially because that's just really helped his flow of information and just kind of uh James kind of helped get him in with Jackie at first, and
Oh,
now
yeah.
they have a fucking final too.
Yep.
Sorry to spoil, but like they just done a very good job.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. James has been absolutely like instrumental in Jason sticking around and doing even more than just sticking around. Like he just won veto. So like he's in the final four, like at this
Mhm.
point. And has proved he's no slouch in competitions in any way whatsoever. So he could very well just win out. And there are quite a few jurors that, at least in relation to like Jackie or in relation to James or in relation to like Davon, could very well vote for Jason, which is kind of crazy, but
Oh, Jace is full on his like cheerleader.
yeah,
He is
He
like he's making
is.
signs. He's like got his little bedazzler out, making
yeah,
t-shirts. He is
absolutely.
all about
Yeah.
Jason.
He's got his pro Jace or pro Jason sign and then his fuck James and Jackie shirt in the back. Because
Yeah, it's like a
he is
reversible.
absolute
Yeah,
he is I honestly like I'm sure I'm this might be a recency bias. I'm sure there's someone who is more bitter, but I cannot remember in recent years a more bitter juror than Jace. Like
it's pretty rough.
he's unhappy.
Maybe some of the salads in 15, but they kind of got over it.
I feel like they didn't even give a fuck. They were like, yeah, fuck all of you, like whatever.
Yeah, that's
Jace
fair.
is like committed to being bitter. Like
It's
he's like
true. He
it's
really is.
serious for him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Maybe Zach last season. Zach last season was pretty bitter.
Oh
Oh, I
yeah,
love
Zach was
Zach.
pretty bitter. Zach
But
was
he'd
pretty
also been
bitter.
evicted like 30 days before that. So we were like, dude, what are we doing?
Yeah, it was like I appreciated that he was willing to hang on to that one, even though it was like kind of nonsensical, but like it was funny
It
with
was
Zach. I
funny.
don't know. He did it in a way that was like very entertaining. Like with Jace, it's like I'm always kind of like, ooh,
Yeah.
ooh.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think like knowing who Zach was like outside of the season, like that is very much his
Yeah.
personality.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
He was a
and
showman,
I think
to say the
yeah,
least.
he's a showman. He likes to put on a show. He likes to have
Yeah.
fun. And I don't know. I thought Zach was nice, but maybe that's because I knew he
Oh
was like
no,
rooting for
yeah.
me.
Oh, Zach was
No,
great. I loved him.
we love
Oh,
Zach. Zach was so much fun. He
he
was
was
robbed king.
he's probably
Period.
my favorite person on that season.
Yeah.
But
He
I
was
think that was probably clear.
I love him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was great. But yes, Jason does indeed snatch the veto, his first veto win of the season, which means that might not be true actually. I think, well, let me check. I can see if there's someone before him that had won an HOH, a veto, and a Battle of the Block. Um, I don't think so. Because most of the people that played in Battle of the Block were out a long time ago. Um, after like Shelly,
Because it was all the same people on the
yeah,
block
it was all the same
pre
people.
pre
Yeah,
That's
jury.
so
tough. That's
and
tough.
especially when it was still Jason was evicted, Shelly was the last person to be in the game that had competed and won in a Battle of the Block competition. So yeah, Jason kind of by default is the only one on the season. It seems that yeah, that won an HOH, a veto, and the Battle of the Block. So that's cool. Good for him. Um, uh, yeah, and Jason has no real reason to want or need to use the veto. James, as Alex was saying earlier, James is his closest ally, and if he uses the veto, James automatically goes up. So there's no kind of rhyme or reason to that happening. So Jason unlike James, makes rather short work of it and just goes ahead and locks noms. Like there's
I
no
think
point in drawing
I think
anything
that's
out.
how you I think that's how you do it. Like you can't, especially this late in the game too, at Final Five, like nobody wants to hear bullshit. They want to hear the truth and they want to hear it fast.
Yeah.
At Final Five, you can't stand around and be like, "Oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do yet." Like, I don't know, guys. I have
We've
the
been in the
veto, I
game
have the
for
power,
50
but
fucking days.
yeah,
Like
Yeah.
everyone knows what they're gonna do. Come
Yeah.
you
on,
know
let's
what
be
you're
so
gonna do. Just
serious.
You've
rip
had two
rip the
months to
bandage off.
decide what you're gonna do.
Yeah, rip the bandage off, do it, and
Absolutely.
people will respect you more. Which
Yeah.
Hmm.
I
And
do
I,
think
I
like
don't I don't think either of them even like saw a glimmer of a world where Jason would use the veto on them anyways.
yeah,
They were like, yeah, cool, just lock it. Like let's start
Yeah.
campaigning votes and
that's just
stuff.
yeah, start the vote.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I do want to say that one more thing, like what you were talking about earlier about how some of the jury does seem to respect Jason's game. I think that's very fascinating to me personally because I remember last season, like nobody really respected Joey's game when Joey came back into the game.
Mother.
Um, and yeah, but I think the case is like a lot of the times when someone does come back in the game, I feel like they don't get respect and they
Mhm.
aren't looked at as a real player because they're like, oh, they were already evicted. So I think from what I'm hearing, it is just very impressive that Jason does kind of have support, and it means he's doing something right, and he is not wasting his second opportunity.
Yeah. And I do think a large percentage of that does stem from a lot of like the earlier, well, actually, that's not even true. I guess for different reasons, for the earlier jurors, like the Jeffs and Shelleys and Beckys of the world, they were like, well, this like five-person alliance and the Glorblords ran the entire fucking thing and it was so boring. And so if they're given an option of someone who makes it to the final two that isn't a Glorblord, like they're gonna heavily consider it just because
And the fact that he took the first shot at them, you
absolutely.
know, that
Yeah,
I think is a major thing. Like he's the reason there was, well, not the reason there was the crack, but
he was
the reason
the
a
first
piece
one, yeah.
fell off. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so for those people from that perspective, that makes sense. And then as far as I think I don't even Meg like earlier today was talking about how she kind of wishes she could vote for Jason, but I think for her personally, the whole getting evicted thing is just too big of a hurdle for her to get over. Especially in comparison to like if she's sitting next to like Jackie, maybe less so James, because Meg never really had a pulse on what James was doing in the game, and then as soon as she thought she did, James blindsided her and Jace and put them both up. Right when Meg thought that she was finally actually working with James. So maybe I guess specifically when it comes to like Day or Jackie, it would not quite be that whole where oh, this alliance ran the whole thing and was so boring because Meg was a part of that alliance, and has a lot more insight into Day and Jackie's games. But meanwhile, Jace is just bitter, and Jace is like, I can't believe these people backstabbed me and betrayed me, and fuck them. And I hope Jason wins because I was telling you guys to get Jason out this whole time, and
Yeah.
instead you came for me and you got me evicted. So of course I'm gonna vote for Jason if I'm given the chance because I told you he was gonna get to the end and win when he didn't even really believe that when that was happening in the game either. So
Jake
it's
is so melodramatic. I
he
love
really
him.
is. Yeah.
Like
He's just the absolute most. Yeah. So yeah, there's differing reasons to differing degrees for people actually wanting to vote for Jason or maybe voting against the people they don't like and stuff like that. But honestly, at this point, Jason probably does have the best like confirmed chance of being in the final two out of anybody, for whatever reason. So just that fact alone, and him having his first like blank week where like he wasn't nominated, didn't have to win a competition at like final like six or something or like final seven is kind of crazy. So I think it could work for him. I think it could go like one of two ways. It really depends on who he's next to, obviously. Um uh, but it also kind of depends on I'm not quite sure how he would sell his game to the jury.
he's pretty good at Q&A.
Yeah. Okay. Well
I'm not
then
gonna yeah, I'm not gonna go in further into it, but yeah,
yeah,
he's
okay.
pretty
Well,
decent
that's
at it.
that's great. So, I mean, yeah, he very well, because like honestly, I think going into it, just like on the board, I think he could like automatically have Jeff's vote. They were super close. Um,
Mhm.
I think Jeff saw a lot of himself in Jason's game, and he would almost see it as like rewarding his game for voting for Jason. So that's like one vote to start with already. And then Jace has been so gung ho, like I told y'all, that's another vote. So that's already two. And then if it's somebody like James who has like been burned by so many people, which seems to be what Jason would want to do and is Jason's like final two or whatever in the game, or his preferred final two, like he could very well get a few more votes. Like Audrey, maybe not Davon. I don't know if Davon would go that far as to vote for Jason. Um, uh, but I could totally see him getting some votes from like Shelly, from Jeff, maybe from Becky, maybe from Audrey, maybe from Jace. Like there's absolute, I mean, the fact that it's in a conversation to begin with, I think is a good enough point to see. So,
It's maybe
um,
not the smoothest path forward, but there is a path,
but there's a path, which is more than what a lot of people could say, I guess. So,
for sure.
um, uh, but yeah, the nominations are locked. The vote will indeed be against Davon and Jackie. James obviously is not going to get rid of Jackie in any way, shape, or form. And Audrey's target is Day and wants Day to go. So really, that in itself is enough to tie it, at least, if Jason does decide for whatever reason to vote for Jackie. Um, uh, and so really it kind of is like Day's kind of dead in the water at this point. So uh Day goes well yeah, between James and Audrey both being the preferred target for their own special reasons or whatever. Jason also sees her as a much bigger threat than Jackie, which is kind of ironic because I mean Jackie's won a lot more competitions than Day has. And I think maybe it's that thing of like Day being so outwardly strategic and so like unapologetic about it, which is fine. It's worked out for her very well in a lot of points in this season and been a lot of the reasons why she's been able to thrive a lot in this season. Um, but every time we talked about that, we had the little asterisk next to it of like, this is great now and it's going well, but like I would be shocked if it doesn't catch up to her at some point. And she's like, well, Davon's an incredible player, and so we have to get her out. And that's kind of just where we're finally at. Albeit, I think it took longer than I thought it would, and I'm shocked that she made it all the way to final five before getting nominated. Um, uh, but that just shows kind of how well positioned and how well strategically she's been playing the whole game. And it also kind of shows kind of the craziness of Big Brother. Like you can go unnominated the entire season, 40 some odd days, 50 some odd days, and then the first time you're on the block. And it only takes one vote, two votes to get you out by that point, and then suddenly like you're gone and you get sniped out just like that.
And if you've
Um,
gone that long without being nominated, your target is massive.
Absolutely.
Like,
It's
'cause
huge.
that is
Yeah,
such a good thing to be able to drop in a speech of like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, absolutely.
especially with Battle of the Block in play.
Yes.
yeah, for sure.
Having 4 or 5 nominations every cycle possibly, and you dodged all of that and then some for another like 20 days or whatever. Yeah, it's crazy. Um, uh,
Especially with all
Jackie,
the veto uses this season. Like,
there's been quite a few. There's been like 7 or 8, I think.
and not
Um,
just because the nominee, like, there's been a lot of like third party veto
yeah,
uses.
no, absolutely.
Love that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been fun.
it has been.
Hmm.
Jackie is kind of like, well, this sucks, but hopefully I'll be fine. And you know what? I can just spin this if I make it to the final two and be like, well, I didn't have to win out. Like I faced a vote at final five and I still stayed. So, which I think is honestly great on paper. Um,
I
uh,
think yeah, I think that's a really good thing to have on a
Absolutely.
resume. Like especially if you're worried about that, like
Yeah.
having something to be like, huh, I didn't actually do that. So there.
Yeah. And I think even like if like that happened to maybe Nicole last season, if like at like final five, final six or something, she was a final nominee and she still stayed, I think that would have been huge for her game because it was such a
I think
overarching
so.
narrative for her that okay, well, like you just won competitions. Like that was it. If you and stuff like that, which was very reductive of her game, but like it's like what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Perception
I
is
know
reality or whatever.
I know in jury I was saying a couple of things like, oh, she just won comps. Like I don't really
Yeah.
know
I
what
was
else she
so
did.
mad at
Like
that. I'm like, she is such a good social player. Stop reducing her game. But it's
I
like,
know.
if you're not showing that to the jury, and like honestly, she flopped
yeah.
like Q&A. Q&A was
I
just
mean,
And the
bad.
goodbye messages, they were very
we'll
Yeah.
get I'm sure we'll get into it a little later, right? But I
Yes,
have to
yes, we will.
I have things to say.
Absolutely. Good, good, good. We'll
Okay.
save it for that. We'll save it for that.
Mhm.
Davon, in kind of a last ditch effort with Audrey, tries to convince her that Jason and James and Jackie have a final three. Um, which, as far as I know, they don't. Maybe like loose connections, like through James, obviously. And they have final twos with each other in different combinations and stuff. But Day's like, yeah, that those two have a final three, and you're just gonna get taken out in fourth place if you send me home. So just do that. But Audrey doesn't believe it, and it's not true. So good for her, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I don't really think there was much Davon could have done after she lost the veto. For multiple reasons, which is unfortunate. And I would have loved to have seen her maybe try and pull something out, but it was also against Jackie, and I just love Jackie, and I really want her. I
Yeah.
want her to succeed. So it was hard. It was hard seeing two queens pitted against each other so late in the game. But I,
Sometimes comps are do or die, and sometimes you just fucking die,
yeah,
you
and
know?
sometimes you just die.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's pretty much what happens. James does his same shit. Different day. Different day. Davon. And he like basically does the same thing we harped on for about half an hour already. Um, where he tells Davon that he just doesn't know, and this is so hard because he's so close to Davon and Jackie, and how could he possibly like make that decision? And if anything, he's more upset that he lost the veto and he couldn't save one of them, and just all of the most that James always does, and holds it up for a number of hours after Jason pretty quickly votes for Day. And it's just another bad look for James, and it's just another person, and it's especially bad because I think outside of the people who are still in the game, I think Davon probably had the best scope of what James was actually doing and everything. They had worked together quite a bit of time, especially like with their relationship with Shelly. They were super in tandem as far as that went. And there were just multiple points in the game where Day and James were kind of like in lockstep and working together on a lot of things. So it's really unfortunate because Davon really could have been a cheerleader for James in the jury, and it really just James just pisses her off so badly going into it.
They is such a straightforward player that I think if James really missed out on a great opportunity to like talk really blunt game with her about and like make her because I feel like she would really respect that. Like
Yeah,
she's kind
absolutely.
of the opposite of Jason's a very emotional player, and that's why he's so bitter. And I think Davon is the opposite. Like he's actually talked multiple times in her DR, like, is this cast okay? Why is everyone crying over this shit? Like, orgs aren't that serious. What is wrong with you? Which has been really refreshing, like as a viewer.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
But I think that like because of that, she would have, as you said, been a really good cheerleader for James if he
Yeah.
had like that's part of the reason also why you don't save shit for the last minute is that you can actually like have that conversation with the person and let them see that like there is strategy behind it, there's reasoning. You might not necessarily tell them right now, but like it's not
Yeah.
just you being a baby
There
about it.
yeah, there was conscious thought put into this, and
Yeah.
all of
And
that.
especially when you're on the block next to their ride or die that you find out about, like, okay, if I'm next to your ride or die and you hold the vote for 22 hours, I'm gonna be mad,
Yeah,
you
like why
know?
didn't you just say that? Like
Right.
like no one can do anything. Well, I guess maybe they could. Like maybe if Day tried to like blow that up and be like, Jackie and James have been a secret duo this entire game. If Jason,
I think
if you vote for Jackie, Audrey can break the tie and whatever. But
I think
I,
it's also kind of a weird look. Like, if your ride or die is on the block,
Mhm.
why are you not instantly voting to keep them?
Yeah.
yeah, no, and
Like,
that happens with Jackie too. Jackie's
would
like,
that not make Jackie a little suspicious or
it
like,
does, yeah. And yeah, Jackie, I remember a point in her DR where she was like, it's like that meme that's like, I'm subtly dropping hints that like I want to go home or whatever, and then it cuts to it and it's her just saying, I want to go home. It's like that. It was like Jackie was like
Yeah.
subtly dropping hints to James to hurry the fuck up and vote Davon out so I can not be on the block anymore. And then it cuts to their one-on-one, and it's Jackie like, can you vote, please? It's it was very
I
that.
mean, yeah, I'd be pretty frustrated if I were in Jackie's shoes and like the person who's supposed to have my back the most over everybody else just isn't voting for the entire deadline.
Yeah.
Like one, that stresses me out. It puts me in a weird like mental headspace for the next competitions.
Yeah.
Um, and it also just makes me lose trust. It makes me question if I can even trust James.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, uh, yeah, because like maybe it isn't this straightforward of a decision for him. Maybe he has like the same relationship with Davon. Like, why is this taking so long? Yeah, absolutely. It snowballs from there
Hmm.
for
And
sure.
even if it doesn't make you lose trust in like if they're actually with you or not, it kind of makes you lose trust in their ability to like put their foot down to defend you,
Yeah,
and like go to bat for you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
make a decision that's not based on emotions or based
Mhm.
on it's just based on your relationship. Like you need to trust somebody to be able to make informed decisions, or else they're not really a good ally for you.
Yeah, and I think even to the point of like Jackie knowing that James has done this before in the past, and being like, well, James wouldn't do that like with me. Like it's different. And the fact that he does still kind of do that and is like all of that, I absolutely I think it kind of I don't know if Jackie ever thought that like, oh my God, James is voting me out and like I'm going home or whatever. But it absolutely was like, okay, why are we on hour 22 of this vote? And it's like literally my ride or die for 45 days in this game. That is voting. It's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. But yes, the votes do come in. James does eventually deliver the news to a rather disgruntled Davon about it. Not even really that like she's getting voted out. Like obviously, yeah, that sucks. But it's like it's just the thing again. Like, why did this take so long? You could have told me
Yeah.
this
Did
12 hours
did
ago.
James like give Davon like hope? It was like, oh, maybe like let me think about it, or was it more like
I know he
just he
definitely was
waited?
like, I have to like sleep on it and like this is such a hard decision for me and I don't want to
I love
lose
you so much. I don't want to lose you.
you.
And yeah.
It was
Hmm.
so I don't know if he ever went as far to be like, I want you to stay, unless it was like, I want you and Jackie to stay. I don't want either of you to go. Um, uh,
Yeah,
but yeah, James also just does this weird thing where he just has cat. He still is talking to these people, and just consistently talking to them, but just like casual conversation, like not about the game. And
interesting.
yeah, it's a bit odd.
I feel
Um,
like that kind of drops like after like day five, and it's just like, oh, game talk, game talk, game talk.
yeah.
Um,
But
but yeah,
I don't know if James has that game talk switch, at least in these situations, at
yeah,
least.
I think from someone who was in Davon's situation just last season, at least from my perspective, I mean, I went into that round thinking, okay, like after veto wasn't used, I was like, okay, maybe there's a chance, like I can still get Amber's vote and we can do something. But it kind of started to realize very quickly, I'm like, oh shit, like this isn't gonna work.
Yeah.
I'm just cooked, to put it
Yeah.
simply.
And once you hit
Um,
that point, it's like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, if you're just
yeah,
gonna vote me out, vote me out.
it was like I
Fully.
don't want to be here. So I went to Amber. I was like, Amber, I know you want to keep me, but like just please vote me out. Like I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
There's no more fight left. And I feel like
Especially
maybe
like,
Davon was
yeah,
in that same kind of headspace.
especially when you've been doing this for like 2 months at this point.
Right, because yeah, you're
Brother's
like
a
two
fucking
months in, you're
endurance
just
comp.
Yeah. Yeah,
you're
you're
like, I just want to go home.
yeah, if I'm going, just tell me I'm going. Yeah. So that's what it was. James does eventually tell Day that he's going to vote to evict her, and Davon is evicted by a vote of 2-0 on what day was it? It was on day 40, day 46. So yeah, damn near 50 days.
Day 46 at Queen Falls.
It's true. It's true.
Pour one
Um,
out.
uh,
Pour one out.
so it is very sad to see. I loved Davon on this season. She was amazing.
So
Um,
good.
especially that stretch of like the John vote where she vetoed Shelley, the Jeff vote where she like flipped the vote and did that, and then going into like the double and just all of that. That like late pre-jury, early jury game was so fucking good from Davon.
I
And
also found it really iconic when it was Jackie's HOH for the double, I think, and she like pulled down Meg and everything. Or not, no, who did she pull down? She pulled down Jason to try to force Meg out.
yes,
And Day was just like, fuck you. I'm still like voting
I'm
to
still
keep
voting.
Meg
I'm still
because
voting for
exactly.
Audrey. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. No, and that really was like Day's whole thing in this game. She was like, I'm gonna do what I want, and like be
Love
unapologetic.
that.
And I loved
She
that
was
because there was
such a blunt player, such a
yeah,
straightforward shooter. And
yeah,
that's like my favorite style of Big Brother player.
absolutely. Especially it was especially stuck out just because there was a lot of people that were not that way this season, and
Hmm.
we're very scared to go against the grain or be such an outward spoken force, and wanted to do that. So when Day stepped up to do it and the multiple times that she did, it was always a breath of fresh air and so amazing. And
Uh,
it shows with the like 14 MVP points or whatever that she got over the course of this, and the like two or three top billings. Should be three. She should have gotten three in a row, but we don't have to talk about that. But it's fine. It's ultimately Sydney's decision. But yeah,
Sydney on mute for a reason right now.
yes, yeah. But yes, Day will be missed. And it is kind of wild. She went from the last person to be nominated at the final five to immediately getting evicted. But that's Big Brother. So,
that's how it goes.
but yes, that was by and large the cycle recap that we have for you guys. So it is that time where we get to give out our MVP points. Each of the four of us have one MVP point to give out based on whatever criteria you want. We've had people get MVP points on the same cycle they get evicted. So by all means, it's open season, clearly. Um, uh, I can go ahead and go first with my MVP point. Um, for the fact alone, the moment she won HOH, I was gonna give my MVP point to Audrey. So, but she finally got me that stat I've been wanting for so many cycles now. Also, I was a pretty clutch HOH win for Audrey. Getting down into these small numbers. So that alone, if she just won HOH, like I probably would have given her the point anyways. But the fact that she won HOH, and then got Davon out of all people, this person that she's been talking about being such a threat to her and wanting her out from like day two to like day like 46 or whatever now, I think is so impressive. And I think it really was just like a full circle moment. I think Davon getting evicted by Audrey like a month and a half later is like perfect. I don't think you could write it better. I think with Meg going out earlier, I think Audrey was the next best person. Especially with the whole arc of Audrey and Meg like fucking hating each other the whole game. And then them like bonding over Jace's death finally right at the end, and them being like, okay, we can finally work together. And then Meg
It
just
was his
immediately,
dying wish,
yeah,
literally. He
yeah,
threw
Meg
them all in an
immediately,
alliance together, like, I'm
yeah.
about to be murdered, work together. It was so
Yeah,
funny.
absolutely. And then Meg just went out immediately. So to have Audrey finally win that coveted HOH and have her get Davon, this such huge player that Audrey's been so personally like, this person is a threat and this person will win. We have to get her out for so long now, was like so satisfying narratively. So I'm more than happy about like three times over to give my MVP point to Audrey. And who would like to go next?
I guess I can jump in because I
Yeah.
fully agree.
Oh yeah.
I also am going to be giving mine to Audrey. As you said, just kind of the iconery of winning
Period.
HOH and,
Yeah.
especially after like I feel like I might be grading this on a curve with Audrey, but
Yeah,
their amount of DQs and DNF, first of all, has to be studied because she created new and interesting ways to fail at competitions, and that
it's
was
true.
quite impressive.
There were literally competitions where all she had to do was finish, and she wins automatically, and she couldn't
By
Oh
finish.
like
no.
handily, very
Yeah,
handily, by the way. That
yeah,
coconut thing, she slayed until she
absolutely.
couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Um, but no, like she just did a really, really good job of, I think in a season of so much waffling and everything, she did a good job of having her plan, sticking to it, just kind of, not really dragging shit out.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I love a decisive queen. I really do.
As you
You
should.
know, I just, it's really fun to me.
Yeah. She's
So,
also been losing her fucking mind the entire season. And so,
oh
um,
my God, that was the other thing I wanted to talk about is just like, I loved the little subplot of her being so fucking pissed that Devon was the last person nominated because
that's,
she
yeah,
wanted that stat herself.
yeah,
I think she literally at one point said, "I don't even give a damn about winning the season anymore. I just want to be the last person nominated."
yes. And
And
it
so
was taken from her cold dead
it
hand.
was. And so I think her then turning around and brutally stabbing Devon was just like really just soul cleansing for her,
Absolutely.
you know?
I'm sure even like no matter what else happens for the rest of the season, I'm sure Audrey knowing that she finally won this competition and yeah, took Davon, such a huge player out. I'm sure that's great for her
I
well-being.
think she's just like bathing in Devon's blood right now. Just like
Absolutely.
it
Yeah,
keeps her skin fresh and supple.
absolutely. For sure. All right. Well, Bray, do you want to go ahead and go for your point now?
Yeah. I think I'm going to agree. I think I'm going to give mine to Audrey. Um,
Great.
and not just because she won HOH, because I think there's something to be said about you winning. You can always win HOH, but make the wrong move.
Hmm.
And I think
James.
taking into account everything I heard today, and from what I understand, it sounds like Audrey winning HOH, putting up Jackie and Devon is the right move, as they're probably Audrey's biggest threats in the game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times people will win power and they don't use it right. And yeah, we know what maybe happens next week, but um, I just think it's impressive to like first of all win a competition after never winning a competition, but also using the power to do something that you want to do,
Yeah.
not like listening to yourself over it. Well, maybe what anybody else is trying to say or trying to sell you.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
need to you got to go with your gut. You got to do what you want to do, and you got to try to set yourself up the best. And I think Audrey, I think honestly just did that.
Great.
Um, and I honestly think if you're in the final five and you're HOH, you should target the top two biggest threats, like regardless. So I think
Yeah.
she's making the right move.
Absolutely.
The
And
one
I'm
thing I
sure.
And
will say
yeah,
about, oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead, Alex.
I was gonna say the one thing I will say about Audrey is that she's always had, or not, I don't know about always, but has generally had pretty good reads on the game.
Yeah.
And she hasn't always been able to like do anything about it,
Yeah.
but she has kind of had a pretty good finger on the pulse of what is best for her game, kind of in a game where there's been a lot of people being snowed and being misted. Um, which isn't to say that she wasn't like, socially misted by some people, but
Yeah.
I think that she has kept a pretty clear head as far as, who the right people to align with are
Yeah.
and, who the right people to get out for her game are.
Absolutely. I mean,
Which
she was
is,
one of the
I think,
few people like so early on that was like, Meg is a huge player. Davon is
mhm.
a huge player. And people should be worried about that. Meanwhile, everyone else was like, oh, I love Meg. I love Davon. We should all be happy and work together. Like,
I think one of the reasons why we called her chaotic so early, I mean, there's the hinky shit, like whatever,
yeah.
but I think it was because she was basically in her DR, like, oh, I am gonna set the fucking house on fire. Like, if I get power, I'm just gonna bathe in the blood of the people that everyone loves the most. And it's like,
Yeah.
if she had gotten an early HOH,
Oh my God. She would have been out. She would have been out so long ago.
yeah,
Like
but
as
she
much.
would have probably blown up certain power structures in the
That's
meantime,
true.
you
Yeah.
know?
It is that kind of thing where like, oh, I do wish she'd won an early HOH and everything, but I really do not think she would have made it this far if she did.
The
Um,
DNF saving her from herself.
literally, yeah. I really think so, and maybe I don't. It is also just this because I do think. Well, I don't know. I don't really think she was like the best positioned player in the world. She had like Jace, obviously, which was a very crucial connection to have. But half the time, Jace was just like pissed off at her and was like, oh, was like actively trying to get Audrey targeted and stuff like that because Jace was just like over it.
Wasn't
Um,
Jace half the reason why most of her game was like public information?
yeah,
I mean,
because
I feel
Jace
like
would
he
just
leaked
tell,
all her
yeah,
shit.
everyone, everything. Yeah, because he would be like, oh, well, Audrey's in my back pocket and this is what she's saying. So,
Mhm.
yeah, and so I really don't know how, this is gonna sound bad. I really don't know how she made it so far without being nominated. But it always just seems she just like had 9 lives, or she like has 9 lives. It just seems like there was always some reason why. Well, we're not gonna nominate Audrey. We can nominate Audrey next time. Like it's fine. Or this person volunteered, so this person can go on the block. We don't have to piss off Audrey. Or like, well, Jace is a bigger target than Audrey, so we can vote out Jace. And then, oh well, Meg's a bigger target than Audrey, so we can vote out Meg. And it just like it got to
I
the
think
point where it is,
pre-jury, it was like she wasn't in that recycled group of nominees.
yeah,
And then kind of when it got to jury phase, it was more, okay, well, we can take a shot at her later. Let's start like, sniping at some bigger fish.
absolutely, yeah, and it just really comes. It can show like those people that you can like brush off, and as I'm sure like Day has done, honestly, and maybe sort of kind of like Jackie as well. Been like, well, like what's Audrey gonna do? Like she can't win a competition, and like I'm sure we can just get her out at some point. And then
Those are the players
suddenly,
you need to watch out for. The
yeah,
players who
suddenly it's the
everyone
final
like,
five and they're
Hmm.
HOH and you're going home on that person's HOH that you kind of discounted for a lot of the game. So I'm very happy for Audrey to finally have this kind of her zenith moment and make it and finally take out Davon. So Sydney, what about you?
So I'm very happy to give out my MVP and top billing points this week because it's going to two queens who I love and have been rooting for. So I'm gonna give MVP to Audrey because she finally fucking won a competition and it was a really good time. I mean, there's several times it would have been a good time, but this was especially a very good time to win a competition. And it's honestly just nice to see that she was able to finally get out Davon, who she's been like literally vying to get out for weeks now. Like ever since the twins, she was trying to get Davon put up as the renom instead of the twins all the way back when. So it was very like narratively satisfying, though sad to see Davon go, but it was nice to see that if Davon had to go, someone like Audrey could get her out. And yeah, like Audrey really just came in clutch. The fact that she managed to win by not disqualifying herself or like not finishing in relationship to everyone else DNFing or DQing is very poetic and beautiful. Like it was kind of like the stars just aligned this week for Audrey, and I thought that was really great. And I've rooted for her since the beginning. Like Audrey is such a fun character and such a funny person, and she's really brought a lot to the season. So yeah, I was very happy for her, and I think she did really well this week. And then my top billing is going to go to Jackie, and that's mostly because I think the fact that Jackie's staying here is huge for her resume if she makes it to the end because she can use this week to show like I didn't have to completely comp out to make it to the end. And yeah, she was up against a huge threat in Davon, and a lot of people in the house wanted Davon gone. But her staying was also partly like all that work she's done with Jason and with Audrey, and also the fact that she's getting to reap rewards of her relationship with James continuing into this endgame portion. All of that is because of Jackie's social and strategic prowess, which she's used and capitalized off the entire game. And I just think it's impressive that she was able to not win a competition. I mean, it wasn't impressive that she wasn't able to win it, but it was impressive that even though she flopped the competition and ended up a final nominee, she was essentially always staying, and she made sure that that was set in stone that she would stay. So, yeah, I mean, I think unequivocally Jackie has set herself up the best in this end game to survive, and she's got very strong competition prowess, which is going to help her out too. So, yeah, I think that she's the well deserved top billing this week.
Uh, Thank you so much, Sydney. You're always so wise and so knowledgeable about all of this. Yes. So that
Very
was our
insightful.
yeah, absolutely. That was our MVP and our top billing. So the only thing left we have is our awards. Every cycle we have, or every episode, I should say, we have had different nominees for different awards, kind of just based on either players or events that has happened. Of course, for the last episode, we had the nominees for the messiest gameplay in Rewind's history. A quick, a quick recap on what those nominees were. We of course in Big Brother 11 had Jen flipping on Zach at the exact deadline, only to try and switch back moments after and being denied by Snowflake. We have in Rewinds 14, another Jen flipping on Ian after subjecting him to a slide puzzle, and then voting together with a hungover Ashley to boot Ian in a 4-3 tiebreak HOH vote. Also appearing in Rewinds 14, we have Danielle's HOH, in which she pawns Janelle, and Frank quits the game. And then the holdover time between Frank quitting the game, the vote flips, and Janelle goes home, saving JoJo, which leads to JoJo then winning HOH the next cycle. And then JoJo's entire HOH getting absolutely just fucked by the double veto twist that's that cycle, and having to nominate every single person possible at the final six. So that was great. Or at the final seven, I should say. Um, uh, and then one more from 14 because it's only fitting. We have Ashley spending an entire 24 hours psychologically warfaring Danielle into keeping her, only for Danielle to just evict her anyways. We have from Rewinds 15, we have Sunflower and Tiny Kong's first murder attempt, or Sunflower and Zelda's first murder attempt on Tiny Kong that leads to the 6-4-0 vote on Doomslayer. Then from the same season, we have their second murder attempt on Tiny Kong, leading to Magikarp being evicted 5-4-0. Also from 15, we have Pikmin and Sombra lying about their votes in the double eviction following the like fight club of a veto competition that was. And then Aaron gets evicted 4-3. From last season, including you, Bray, we have Zach and Donnie intentionally setting up a 6-5 vote for Devin to be evicted. And then Donnie proceeded to take all of the blame for it.
I sure did do that.
Yeah. And then we have a couple entries from this season. We have James stalling both nominating Meg and James, as well as the Audrey renomination. So, as we can see, at least he's consistent. And then we have Jackie sweeping the double eviction as everyone tells her everything that they shouldn't, leading to Jason being vetoed and Jackie strong arming the Meg boot. So we had quite a few options to pick from for messy gameplay. And it's fitting that on the nomination for messy gameplay, we had a messy vote, and we actually have a three-way tie for the winner of
Yes,
one.
that's what we
So,
deserve.
in no particular order, we do indeed have you, Bray, with last season, Zach and Donnie setting up the 6-5 vote for Devin.
It
Uh,
was fun.
yeah, and you're in good company because you're in company of both of the Jens from 11 and 14 as well, with Jen flipping on Ian and then her and a hungover Ashley voting Ian out after the slide puzzle, and then Jen flipping on Zach in Rewinds 11, quite literally at the deadline, only to try and switch back. So, congratulations to all of our winners. Congratulations to you, Bray.
Oh, thank you so
You
much.
officially are a winner of one of the Rewinds awards. It doesn't matter.
I'm so sad I didn't get to like watch that live because it was before I was paying attention to that season.
It
But
was such a mess. It
I
was
was
so bad.
I
What,
had
when me
so
and
many
Zach did
strong
that?
feelings.
Yes.
I had so many strong feelings about it though when I heard about it from the podcast because I
Yeah.
like basically binged the podcast to catch up on the season and I was like
Yeah.
so furious about it
The
because I'm an Emmy truther too. So I was just like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah. It was a mess. It was
okay,
a hot mess.
well, So I was like my gameplay and like the pre-jury was obviously I was nominated the first week
Hmm.
and I was like, oh shit, like I need to start like I need to do something different because I was just like not talking to people enough. So then I somehow found myself in the good graces of most people, but I was still working with Zach the most. And I was like,
Hmm.
he was like, let's just get Derek out or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, was that the Derek vote or was that the Devin vote? It was the Devin vote, right?
No, yeah, the Devon vote was kind of the first thing that started people being like, what the fuck are Zach and Donnie doing? So
Oh,
Yeah.
right. That was different. That was different from the Derek vote. That was
So the
another.
the
I was
Derek
so
was
mad at
the
Zach
another
for that.
big contributing factor to that. Absolutely. So
the Devin thing, like, because we were in an alliance with Devin, and Zach was just like, "Yo, who was Devin next to again?"
Joey.
Joey. It was Joey or Devin, and I was aligned with both of them. And I was like, I don't really know. I want to keep Joey. I think Joey's gonna be better for my game. And Zach's like, okay, well, we need to make this a really close vote so we can like be not perceived as a duo.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I don't
It's
care.
so funny.
I'll just
I think I
go
remember
along with
you
it.
being in like Margaritaville at the time too as
Oh, I
well.
sure was.
Yeah. So good.
Um, but yeah, I was like, I gotta go on vacation. I don't really care.
Yeah.
Um, I'll take whatever blame I have to take because honestly, when I play Big Brother, like if I had to take a little bit of blame, I didn't mind because I knew that people were seeing Zach as a bigger threat than me. So I was like,
Yep.
it's fine. I'll look like the victim here, and then Zach will get evicted later, and I'll be fine.
And you know what? That's exactly what happened. And,
Yep.
it took
It
it
worked
took
out.
like it took like a few hours for people to be like, poor Donnie. Zach is just playing him. I can't believe he's using him like this. So
And
yeah,
then and then they all came to me. They told me, and I said, "Oh my God, really? They're playing me?"
exactly. And it worked out. I mean, you all peace and love and light to Zach, but you made it a lot further than Zach did. So but yeah. So but congratulations to all of the winners for that. For this award, um uh, I'm sure if it wasn't obvious, or for our like 20-30 minute session we had talking about James's jury management, the category for this episode is indeed worst jury management in Rewind's history. And so I will, of course, be throwing James into the ring for that, for um his overall, whether it's the truth or not, his revisionist history and his goodbye messages, his stalling of deadlines and everything, and his overall just aloofness has earned James a spot on here. I would also like to touch on, from quite a few seasons back, I want to touch on Big Brother Rewinds 8. I want to talk about Danielle Donato. And I will say she did obviously go on to win the season. So her jury management couldn't have been that like piss poor abysmal, but the fact that she did it, the fact that it wasn't a unanimous vote and it was a 5-2 vote against Joe, aka Blaze, the perennial runner-up of Rewinds, is kind of crazy in itself because it really should have been unanimous. But Danielle, the main thing that always sticks out to me about Danielle's jury management is, especially with Dustin and Amber towards the end, because she openly told them that for the entire game she'd been keeping a like kill sheet document on them if she found herself nominated as a final nominee next to either of them, where she just had all of this shit that she could unload on them to absolutely send her home. And she openly said that to them,
What's
like as
Danielle's
they
main
were.
again?
Do what?
What's her main again?
He went by hello in this, but as a joke.
Oh,
But it's Hayes'
please.
boyfriend. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Christian, Harmony, whatever. Yeah, his
Yeah,
boyfriend.
yeah.
Matt. Um uh,
okay.
yeah, so
What a kill.
um uh, it was not great. And it certainly did not help. And it did turn into a lot of people kind of reluctantly voting for Danielle at the end. Just because they couldn't really justify voting for Joe to a certain extent. And then a couple of people did justify voting for Joe. So I remember Graham talking about genuinely considering voting for Joe, which is saying something because they hated each other on that season. Just because of like the kill sheet alone and how genuinely off-putting some of Danielle's like jury management was. So I would absolutely like to throw that in there. And then I think I would also like to do Jeff from my favorite season of Rewinds, Big Brother Rewinds 11. I think Jeff kind of had a similar problem to what Jace had on this season, where he was a Ray. I will stand by saying Ray is one of the best social players that like we've ever had in the series, across both 11 and in 15 when he came back. He's just he's like a force socially. It's crazy. Like Ray can get anyone to like him and have anyone think that they're like their number one and like they're working together for the rest of the game. It's crazy. But um uh, in 11, Ray kind of came into the problem of it not really seeming like he was gonna stick his neck out for anybody once it got into like the single digits. And just the kind of the Jace, kind of the James of it all, like not really wanting to go into like the confrontations with people and kind of avoiding that. So it came out when he would send his goodbye messages, he would not have a lot of respect from the jury members, and it would seem like Jeff was just kind of there and not really doing a lot. And then when he got to the final two, and people started confronting him with that, he got very defensive and just started like cussing people out and like yelling at people in the final two. So it was not amazing. So I do want to throw Jeff from Rewinds 11 in there. And those will be my nominees for
Amazing.
whoever wants to nominate now.
Period. Did you want to go Bray or Shy?
Yeah. Um, I guess I'll talk about Nicole from
Period.
BBR 16.
Period.
As you should.
Um, because that's like the one I can think about who I was on the jury and
Yeah, I
a
mean
lot of people had a
you
lot of
have
things to say.
shared experience with it, absolutely.
Um, I think Nicole's main issue, well, one, I never got a goodbye message, and I think that's like a big red flag as someone who's sitting in the final two. Like, it makes you think like, oh, you're not important enough to
Yeah.
get a goodbye message to take 5 minutes out of your day and write like, oh, a few sentences explaining what happened. Now I did get one at FTC, not FTC, at jury questioning.
I remember
But
that.
like
It was very cringy.
it was a little too late for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing I'll say about Nicole, while playing the game with Nicole, she was like the sweetest person ever. Um, literally, that's why she made it all the way to Final Seven, was the last person nominated
Yep.
in our season. She had a very good social game in that regard. But when it came time for her to cut people in the game, it almost was like a switch flipped. And from my remembrance, like, and this was a few months ago, so my brain's not very good. I just remember like being like, "Hey Nicole, like, is there anything we could do?" And it was just kind of like, "No, like, there's nothing you can do. Like, it's just you're going home."
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I just won't try anymore.
Like, okay,
But
sounds good.
I think where Nicole suffered, where Cody didn't, is like I think Cody was more open and honest about what his intentions were, and Cody was able to back up with reasons why he was doing things. Like when I forced him to put up Jocasta, um, at Final
Which was
Five, he was like,
iconic, by the way. I
So
loved
good.
yeah,
that.
he was like, okay, well, like I think that you have these things, these moves, there's reasons I can't fully trust you. I have to vote you out. And I'm like, that I can respect as a player. Now, I don't think Cody ever gave me a goodbye message either, but I felt like when I left the season, I had more of an understanding of where his game stood and
Yeah.
what he did in the game. Whereas I think Nicole, my perception of Nicole was, oh, she's a sweetheart, she's won comps, but I don't feel like I've been managed well enough. And I think a lot of the jury kind of echoed that sentiment when I got
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
I don't know if you have any more like additional things to add about that, but
I mean, yeah, I I mean we by the time we broke it down, like we got to it and it was like final four, maybe even final five with you. I don't know if Nicole beats anybody in like that group of people. She could beat Joey, but the fact that it's like a maybe she could beat Joey at that point is like oof. Uh,
I would definitely vote for her over Joey.
yeah. Okay. Well then there we go. So yeah. But it really just got to the point where Nicole was not the best at her game itself was very
Her
good.
game was amazing.
I think she played the most dominant, like strategic and social first half of the game, and then the most dominant, like competition second half of the game, obviously. But I think she herself was not the best at describing her game. And I think
Yeah,
especially when it came to like the questioning, it came down to the point where the jurors themselves were kind of reducing her game to just the second half with the physical stuff. And instead of her like taking that and being like, well, yes, I did have a great physical game, but and like talk about her social and strategy stuff, all she did was focus on that. And so she just
yeah,
got tripped up so much on that. And then with the forgetting goodbye messages to certain people or the goodbye messages that she would send were like really surface level. And it was like, hey, so sorry to have to do this. See you soon, but hopefully not too soon. And like that's just what it was. It
hmm
was not great. I don't think like if there was one thing about Nicole's game that I would have changed, it would have been like she just needed to learn how to articulate her game and how to
yeah,
like, have other
I
people.
literally wanted to steal her computer at times. So I was like, babe, I can summarize your game so much better than you're doing right now. Like
I
you have such a good story to tell. And I felt like she was just not doing that.
Yeah, she
I
It's
just
very
think like
frustrating to watch.
yeah,
when I
absolutely.
went out of the game, I think I even said, guys, send me goodbye messages. Um,
Yeah.
and then back to jury questioning. Like I was waiting the whole time just to hear like anything that wasn't like just trying to defend the comp thing. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I did win a lot of comps, but like it kept me safe. It kept me my allies safe. It kept me insulated in the game. Like I wanted to hear something like that. And
Yeah.
I feel like when I talked to Cody, like it was a lot more like here is the different aspects and elements of my game that aren't comp related.
Yeah, Cody had such a
Mhm.
strong final two performance.
Yeah, and
And really,
I went in there like I would have voted for Nicole if Nicole had a good jury questioning.
yeah.
Like I was open to
That's
it.
where a lot of people were at, genuinely. Um, uh, I even remember in like the jury roundtable, it got asked, like, who do you think is going to win, but who do you want to win? And everyone said they thought Nicole was going to win, but they wanted one of Amber or Cody to win. So
Amber
it's
would have been
like
such a good winner.
Amber would have been great. Yeah.
Love Amber.
She queen's too close to the sun. But yes, I think all what you said about Nicole, absolutely.
Mhm.
Love her to death, and we love you, Max, very much. But her jury management was really bad. And then Alex, I think you have quite the experience with somebody on a particular season,
I
don't you?
do. Again, I'm really trying to talk about something that's not season 15, but it's just simply not happening.
It's okay.
Because I really need to just discuss Sombra
Yes.
because this was a situation where the background, Sombra and I were ride or dies ever since Doom was flung from the game week 3 in the tiny murder attempt number 1.
Hmm.
And it was one of those things where in the game, I was Isabel, and I basically was kind of like the number one target slash like, especially in Endgame, it felt like pretty much everyone was saying like if Isabel gets to the end, she's gonna like sweep, blah blah blah. But the thing was is that like all of my moves and all of my shit was done in complete conjunction with Sombra. And she had like such a good strategic hold on the game and just like had a finger in like all these moves and everything and just had such a good resume. And so when I got to jury, after being cut at 3 and saw basically like jury perception of her, I was genuinely shocked because I basically was expecting to come in to be like, oh my God, Sombra is so amazing. And I find that like everyone was so mad at her.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they basically were like, oh my God, Shinx versus Sombra, my nightmare scenario. Can I just not vote? And I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And I think it was one of those things where because she was riding the middle so much, like she had such amazing positioning that it just meant that she had to betray so many people. And then I think that coupled with the fact that like she was going to be loyal to me at the end, like she was saying in goodbye messages, like, oh, I would bring Isabel to the end. And I think people were basically just kind of going like, wait, so you were willing to stab me and betray me, but you can't betray this person who pretty much everyone is actively telling you that you lose to. Because people
Yep.
like were saying that shit in the pressure cooker.
Yep.
Like Shanks, Somber, like, get rid of Isabel and Tiny. And I think that just really kind of goes in I actually see a lot of that reflected in the James and Jackie duo,
Hmm.
as far as, like one person's a little bit more public and, kind of more respected in the Jackie with, you know, her comp wins, her being part of this majority alliance, just her general social dominance. And James, who is just kind of really seeming to flounder with the jury, even though his game is really amazing and very strategically sound.
Yep. Absolutely.
But I think the difference is that, Jackie seems to be willing to be a little bit more cutthroat and, you know, and all that. But James does still seem to be kind of doing the somber thing of, kind of being willing to go to the end with this bigger threat. And I feel like that could also kind of fight him a little bit. So
Absolutely. I guess
we'll
time will
be
tell.
curious to exactly. Time
Yeah.
will tell.
All right.
We
And
can't even give a spoiler about it because we don't know yet.
I know we really don't know. So,
Yeah.
Sydney,
But I
why
think it'll
don't
just be a
you?
really fun thing to watch. So
Yeah, Sydney, why don't you round us out with, I know you are going to talk about a specific person and all of your amazing feelings you have towards them from your original season.
So, I get the pleasure of talking about horrible jury management with Yvette and BBR6. So, quick rundown for those who don't know, Yvette is Danny, who is, I guess she's old. She's probably like in her 40s now, or like late 30s. But at the time, she was in her like early 30s. Not that that really matters. I just think it makes the whole thing funnier. Yvette did not give a fuck about anything. She was Howie's partner, so pretty much everyone knew that by the end game, and it was like Howie was dragging Yvette to the end for that fucking like $10 or $20 gift card, whatever the prize was. Even though Howie was fucking fed up with Yvette, and Yvette had not just made no efforts to like persuade or like form relationships with the jury, but she like actively shat on everyone in the jury. Like, for example, hi, Miss Rachel plus blah blah blah. I was evicted at Final Four by Yvette. But before I was evicted, so it was obviously me and Janelle slash Jeevan on the block. Howie was HOH. Yvette had the deciding vote as to who left. And Yvette, even though her, Danny and Jeevan like hate each other and like were beefing the entire season, Yvette for some reason had formed this like unknowable blood pact that she wouldn't evict Janelle at Final Four, even though she literally despised Janelle. Not that she particularly liked me either, but like we actually had a much better working relationship because of Howie than Janelle ever had with Yvette. But there was this like unbreakable blood pact that she would keep Janelle at the Final Four. But regardless, and very fairly because it's fucking Danny, Janelle Jeevan sent like a fucking 5 paragraph essay to Yvette on why she should keep like Janelle over me, Rachel. And Yvette, I think, just sent back like, why the fuck did you send this to me? I'm not reading that. Like, I'm keeping you because I promised I would, but this is just for the meme. You guys are fighting over fourth and third place. Oh, Oh, wow. Wow. So Jeevan said nothing until I got evicted. And then after I got evicted, Jeevan and fucking Yvette had a fight, a blowout fight, which Yvette deserved. And then, of course, Jeevan flopped and lost a final three and got evicted. So that's what's worse is Yvette was like technically right. Like we were fighting over four and three. But so then at the end, we're in questioning and most of the jury hates Howie and Yvette. Like I was rooting for Howie because him and I had been like close partners throughout the game. No one is rooting for Yvette. There's some people rooting for Howie, and then there's people rooting for neither of them. But I would say no one was rooting for Yvette. So then Yvette obviously gets into questioning, and we were all just like ready to destroy her because her goodbye messages, if she sent them, were like condescending and rude. Half the game, she just didn't bother talking to people all the time. Literally, the only reason she was even in the end game was because Howie was her partner, and he had a literal financial incentive to drag her to the end. And also, like, he knew he was going to win against her. Or I hope he knew that because no one was voting for her. So people, because we were all bitter and also like that was a fun jury. So we were all like kind of like, shooting the shit and we were asking about a lot of questions. honestly trying to understand like why the fuck she'd done a lot of the stuff she did that was just like seemingly nonsensical. At one point, she called me and Luke temptations. We were Howie's temptations, and that's why she had to get us out because she saw us as being like closer to him. That was really funny. Anyway, just all in all, her jury management was literally non-existent. Like we almost didn't even put this in the category because like I don't even know if you can call anything she did jury management unless you consider it just like extremely negative jury management, like managing the jury in the poorest, most offensive way possible. But it's still a jury management because she made it to final two. So yeah, it was horrible. She lost. It was an unanimous vote for Howie. Not one person voted for her. Not surprised. And then I think the next season is when someone made it. I think maybe like Liam or something made the joke about her throwing the first brick at Stonewall, and then she got mad at everyone and left and has never rejoined the server. So, you know, life is a beautiful thing.
All right. That is going to wrap us up, everybody. Extra special thank you to Bray for joining us this episode. It was so
Yeah, you
nice
were
to
amazing,
have
Bray.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for having
You're
me. This was so much
welcome
fun.
anytime. Absolutely. Thank you, Alex, of course, and thank you, Sydney. We'll see you guys next time. We only have a couple episodes left for this
Yes.
season. I'm gonna be so
Yay.
sad, but we'll make the most of it. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.